Sometimes the person everyone overlooks is the one destiny has been searching for all along. The full moon hung high above Crimson Moon Pack, bathing the ancient stone courtyard in soft silver light, as families gathered for the annual pairing ceremony. Lanterns swayed gently beneath towering oak trees while musicians filled the cool evening air with quiet melodies that carried across the village. Every unmated Alpha and Omega stood dressed in their finest clothes, hoping this would become the night their future finally began. Excited whispers drifted through the crowd as elders welcomed guests from neighboring packs, children laughed beside glowing fire pits, and proud parents exchanged hopeful smiles. Olivia Bennet stood near the back of the gathering wearing a simple pale blue dress her mother had carefully mended by hand. It was beautiful in its own quiet way, though far less elaborate than the elegant gowns surrounding her. She gently smoothed the sleeves before folding her hands together, content simply to witness the happiness of others. Beside her stood her older sister, Charlotte Bennet, whose graceful smile immediately drew every eye in the courtyard. Friends gathered around Charlotte with warm compliments while young Alphas respectfully greeted her family. Olivia smiled sincerely every time someone praised her sister. She had never wished to compete with Charlotte. She only wished her sister every happiness the moon goddess could offer. Elder Nathan stepped onto the ceremonial platform beneath the ancient moon tree and raised his hand for silence. The conversation slowly faded until only the gentle rustling of leaves remained. "Tonight," he announced, "we celebrate trust, loyalty, and the future of Crimson Moon Pack." Warm applause echoed through the courtyard as unmated Alphas stepped forward one after another. Among them stood Ryan Carter, a confident young Alpha admired throughout the region for his leadership and determination. Quiet whispers immediately spread through the gathered families because nearly everyone believed Ryan had already chosen the woman who would stand beside him. Olivia heard those whispers without changing her expression. She quietly stepped farther toward the edge of the crowd, leaving more room near the front for others whose futures seemed brighter than her own. Nearby, a small girl accidentally dropped a basket filled with white flowers prepared for the ceremony. Delicate blossoms scattered across the stone path as guests carefully walked around them, too focused on the celebration to notice the frightened child. Olivia immediately knelt beside her with a comforting smile. "Do not worry," she whispered gently. "We still have plenty of time." Together they gathered every flower until the basket was full once again. The little girl smiled with grateful relief before hurrying back toward her family. Olivia watched her leave with quiet satisfaction before returning unnoticed to her place near the back of the courtyard. Above her, the brilliant moon continued rising higher into the night sky while hopeful conversations slowly grew louder once more. Olivia looked toward the ceremonial platform with calm acceptance. She expected nothing for herself this evening. She simply hoped everyone else would leave with joyful hearts. She did not realize that before the night ended, the path destiny had quietly prepared for her would begin with the very moment she believed she had already been forgotten. The first Alpha stepped onto the stone platform as the music softened beneath the glowing full moon, and the entire courtyard seemed to pause with hopeful anticipation. Elder Nathan welcomed each unmated Alpha with calm dignity before inviting them to follow the path their hearts believed was true. One by one, young Alphas approached the women they admired, exchanging respectful smiles while families celebrated every new beginning with warm applause. Olivia watched each joyful moment with genuine happiness. Even as quiet disappointment lingered somewhere inside her heart, she believed every honest bond deserved to be celebrated. Beside her, Charlotte stood gracefully beneath the silver lantern light, her elegant white gown catching the attention of nearly everyone nearby. Friends whispered excitedly, already convinced they knew how the evening would end. Ryan Carter remained near the front of the gathering, calm and confident, waiting patiently until Elder Nathan called his name. The courtyard gradually became silent once again as Ryan stepped forward beneath the ancient moon tree. He looked directly toward Charlotte without hesitation. A warm smile crossed his face as he spoke clearly enough for every family gathered there to hear. "Charlotte Bennet, I hope you will honor me by walking beside me into the future." Joyful applause immediately echoed throughout the courtyard. Charlotte smiled brightly before accepting his invitation with sincere happiness. Their families embraced while neighbors offered warm congratulations. Olivia joined the applause with the same gentle smile she had worn throughout the evening. She truly wanted her sister to be happy, and nothing inside her wished to diminish that moment. Yet standing only a few steps away from the celebration reminded her how easily she disappeared whenever brighter lights surrounded someone else. As everyone gathered around the newly matched couple, Olivia quietly stepped backward until she reached the edge of the courtyard. No one called her name. No one noticed her leaving because every eye remained fixed upon Charlotte and Ryan. Olivia looked toward her sister one final time, silently wishing her every blessing, before turning toward the narrow forest path leading away from the ceremony. The cheerful music slowly faded behind her as cool night air welcomed her beneath the towering pines. Moonlight spilled across the winding trail, and for the first time that evening she allowed herself a slow breath. She did not cry. She did not blame anyone. Destiny could not be forced, and kindness did not become less valuable simply because it was unseen. A gentle rustling sound drew her attention toward the side of the trail where an elderly gray wolf stood awkwardly beside a fallen branch resting across one of its front paws. Olivia immediately hurried over, speaking softly so the animal would not become frightened. "It is all right," she whispered with reassuring warmth. Carefully lifting the light branch aside, she stepped back to give the old wolf room to move freely. The animal looked into her eyes for a long peaceful moment before quietly disappearing into the moonlit forest. Olivia smiled to herself and continued walking, completely unaware that hidden beyond the trees, another traveler had witnessed everything in silence, and with every small act of compassion she offered, destiny had begun changing the course of both their lives. Olivia continued walking beneath the towering pines, allowing the peaceful silence of the forest to calm the quiet ache she carried inside her heart. The cheerful music from the pairing ceremony had almost disappeared behind the trees, replaced by the gentle murmur of a nearby stream and the soft rustling of leaves beneath the cool night breeze. She never questioned Ryan's decision. Charlotte had always been admired, and Olivia truly wished her sister every happiness. Even so, being forgotten so easily left a sadness that only the quiet forest seemed able to understand. A faint cry suddenly reached her ears. Olivia immediately stopped and listened carefully until she noticed a little girl standing alone near the stream, clutching a small lantern while tears filled her frightened eyes. The child looked no older than 7 years old. Olivia slowly approached with a reassuring smile. "Are you lost?" she asked gently. The little girl nodded. "I cannot find my father," she whispered. Olivia knelt until they were eye level. "Then we will find him together." She did not rush the frightened child. Instead, she waited patiently until the little girl felt safe enough to take her hand. Together they followed the moonlit path through the forest, Olivia quietly pointing toward familiar landmarks to reassure the child that they were never truly alone. Hidden several yards away, a tall figure observed every moment without making his presence known. Alpha King Ethan Ashford had arrived at Crimson Moon Pack only moments earlier after concluding an important council meeting with neighboring territories. He had intended to enter the pairing ceremony immediately, but the sight of a young Omega quietly helping an elderly wolf had drawn him into the forest instead. Now he watched as the same woman gently comforted a frightened child. Without expecting recognition or praise, Elder Samuel, who had accompanied the Alpha King, quietly noticed where Ethan's attention remained fixed. "Your Majesty," the elder asked softly, "shall we continue to the ceremony?" Ethan did not immediately answer. His silver eyes never left Olivia. "In a moment," he replied. "There is something here I was not expecting to find." Elder Samuel followed his gaze until he noticed Olivia leading the little girl with calm patience through the moonlit trees. He remained respectfully silent. Ethan had spent years meeting powerful leaders, celebrated warriors, and noble families from every corner of the kingdom. He had learned that true character revealed itself most clearly when no audience was watching. The young Omega believed she was completely alone, yet every choice she made reflected quiet compassion instead of disappointment. As Olivia and the little girl reached the edge of the forest, an anxious father rushed forward with tears of relief, embracing his daughter before repeatedly thanking Olivia. She simply smiled, wished them a peaceful evening, and quietly stepped aside before anyone could offer further praise. Ethan watched her disappear once more toward the silent trail, feeling an unfamiliar warmth awaken deep within his heart. It was gentle, steady, and impossible to ignore, like the first quiet note of a song destiny had patiently waited to play beneath the light of the full moon. Olivia quietly watched the grateful father lift his daughter into his arms before turning away once more, believing her place remained somewhere beyond the celebration waiting inside Crimson Moon Pack. She had spent her entire life accepting that kindness did not always receive attention, and tonight had only confirmed what she already believed. Yet despite the disappointment resting quietly inside her heart, she felt no resentment toward Charlotte or Ryan. The moon continued shining just as beautifully for everyone, and Olivia refused to let sadness steal the peace she found beneath its silver light. Behind the shelter of the towering pines, Alpha King Ethan Ashford remained motionless, his silver eyes following the young Omega with thoughtful calm. Elder Samuel stepped closer, noticing the unusual silence that had settled over the king. "Your Majesty," he said respectfully, "the elders have already announced your arrival. The entire pack is waiting." Ethan slowly looked toward the distant lanterns glowing beyond the trees before answering. "They can wait a little longer." Elder Samuel studied his expression with quiet understanding. During many years beside the Alpha King, he had rarely seen him delay an official ceremony. Ethan never ignored responsibility without reason. Whatever held his attention now carried unusual importance. Olivia wandered toward a peaceful clearing where an old wooden bench overlooked a narrow stream reflecting the moon above. She sat quietly, listening to the gentle flow of water while cool night air carried the scent of pine and wildflowers across the forest floor. A white butterfly drifted gently through the clearing before resting briefly upon the sleeve of her pale blue dress. Olivia smiled softly at the tiny visitor before watching it disappear into the moonlight. "I hope tonight brings happiness to everyone," she whispered. She did not ask the moon goddess why life had unfolded differently for her. She simply offered another silent wish for those around her. Ethan heard every word. Something deep within him responded with quiet certainty. Throughout his years as Alpha King, he had met countless people who spoke proudly about honor and compassion. Yet standing before him was someone who lived those virtues naturally, even when she believed nobody would ever notice. He slowly stepped from the shadows into the clearing. Olivia heard the soft sound of approaching footsteps and immediately rose to her feet. She offered the unfamiliar stranger a polite smile without recognizing the royal crest embroidered in silver across his elegant black coat. "Good evening," she greeted warmly. Ethan returned the smile with calm sincerity. "Good evening." Neither hurried to fill the silence. Instead, they stood beside the softly flowing stream while moonlight shimmered across the water between them. Olivia noticed kindness in the stranger's expression rather than pride. Ethan saw quiet strength hidden behind her gentle smile. "Were you returning from the ceremony?" he asked. Olivia nodded lightly before glancing toward the distant glow beyond the trees. Everyone who belonged there already found their place. Ethan considered her answer for several thoughtful seconds. There was sadness in her voice but no bitterness. No complaint. Only acceptance wrapped in grace. The warmth growing inside his heart became stronger than before, steady and unmistakable, like an ancient promise finally awakening after years of silence. Elder Samuel remained respectfully hidden among the trees, and a quiet smile crossed his face as he watched the Alpha King stand before the young Omega. Without either of them realizing it, destiny had already taken its first undeniable step, and before the moon completed its journey across the night sky, the forgotten woman who expected nothing would become the center of a story the entire pack would remember forever. The quiet clearing beside the stream seemed untouched by time as Olivia and the stranger stood beneath the silver glow of the full moon. Gentle ripples carried reflections of the stars across the water, while a cool breeze stirred the branches overhead. Olivia smiled politely, believing their brief conversation would soon end. "I hope whoever you came here to meet is waiting for you," she said softly. Ethan looked at her with calm sincerity before answering, "Perhaps the person I was meant to meet has already found me." Olivia laughed quietly, assuming he was speaking about an old friend or a family member. She did not realize how deeply those words reflected the truth already awakening inside him. For a few peaceful moments, neither of them spoke. The silence felt natural, filled only with the gentle sounds of flowing water and distant music drifting from the ceremony. A small robin fluttered onto a nearby branch, and Olivia instinctively smiled toward the little bird before watching it disappear into the darkness. Ethan noticed even that simple gesture. Every small act seemed to reveal another layer of the quiet compassion that had captured his attention from the moment he first saw her. Elder Samuel remained respectfully hidden among the trees, observing without interruption. During decades of service beside the Alpha King, he had witnessed countless political alliances and ceremonial introductions, yet none had ever unfolded with such quiet certainty. Ethan had not been impressed by status or appearance. He had been moved by character, and the invisible bond growing within him became stronger with every passing heartbeat. Olivia gently brushed a loose strand of chestnut hair behind her ear before looking once more toward the lanterns glowing beyond the forest. "Everyone must still be celebrating," she said. "I hope the evening becomes a beautiful memory for them." Ethan studied her thoughtful expression. Even after leaving unnoticed, she continued wishing happiness for everyone else. There was no resentment, no bitterness, only grace. The warmth inside his heart no longer felt unfamiliar. It had become peaceful, steady, and undeniable, like an ancient promise quietly fulfilled beneath the moon. He drew a slow breath before speaking. "May I ask you something?" Olivia nodded with a gentle smile. "Of course. Would you return to the ceremony with me?" She looked at him in surprise. "There is no reason for me to go back. My place there has already passed." Ethan slowly shook his head. "I believe your evening is only beginning." Before Olivia could respond, distant ceremonial bells echoed through the forest, followed by the clear voice of an elder welcoming the long-awaited arrival of the Alpha King. Elder Samuel stepped forward from the shadows and respectfully bowed. "Your Majesty, the council and the entire pack are waiting." Olivia's eyes widened as understanding finally settled across her face. She looked from the elder to the man standing before her, suddenly recognizing the silver royal crest embroidered across his elegant black coat. Embarrassment flushed her cheeks as she immediately lowered her head. "Your Majesty, please forgive me. I did not know who you were." Ethan stepped closer with reassuring calm. "There is nothing to forgive. You treated me with kindness before you knew my title. That is something I will always value." Olivia slowly lifted her eyes. Instead of authority or distance, she found warmth waiting for her. Ethan offered his hand with quiet courtesy rather than command. "Walk back with me." After a brief hesitation, Olivia accepted, and together they began following the moonlit path toward Crimson Moon Pack, while destiny quietly prepared to reveal itself before everyone waiting beneath the ancient moon tree. Olivia walked beside Ethan along the moonlit path with quiet uncertainty, her hand resting lightly in his only because he had offered it with genuine respect rather than royal authority. The forest gradually opened toward the brightly illuminated courtyard, where the pairing ceremony continued beneath the ancient moon tree. Music still drifted through the cool evening air, and joyful conversations filled the pack with celebration. Olivia slowed her steps as the familiar lanterns came into view. "Your Majesty," she said gently, "I do not belong in the center of this evening. Everyone came here to celebrate Charlotte and Ryan. I do not wish to interrupt their happiness." Ethan looked toward her with calm confidence. "You are not interrupting anything. Sometimes the truth arrives after everyone believes the story has already ended." His steady voice carried neither pride nor hesitation. Olivia searched his expression, hoping to understand why the Alpha King had chosen to bring her back before the entire pack. She found only sincerity. As they approached the entrance to the courtyard, the royal guards respectfully stepped aside and lowered their heads. Elder Nathan immediately noticed Ethan's arrival and raised his hand, bringing the ceremony to a gradual pause. Conversations faded into curious whispers as every face turned toward the entrance. Ryan stood beside Charlotte, smiling proudly after receiving countless congratulations. His expression slowly changed as he noticed the Alpha King entering beside an unfamiliar companion. Charlotte also looked toward the entrance, and her eyes widened the moment she recognized her younger sister walking beside the most respected Alpha in the kingdom. Olivia instinctively wished to step back into the shadows, but Ethan remained beside her at an unhurried pace, allowing the entire pack to witness that he had invited her there willingly. Elder Nathan stepped forward and respectfully bowed. "Your Majesty, Crimson Moon Pack is honored by your presence." Ethan acknowledged the greeting with a slight nod before quietly looking toward Olivia again. That single glance did not escape anyone's attention. Curious whispers spread across the courtyard. Some wondered whether the young Omega had somehow become involved in royal business. Others simply watched in silence, sensing that something extraordinary was about to unfold. Ryan felt an unfamiliar uneasiness settle within him. Only an hour earlier, Olivia had stood quietly at the edge of the gathering, almost invisible beside her sister. Now the Alpha King himself had returned with her at his side. He could not understand why. Charlotte gently touched Ryan's arm without taking her eyes off Olivia. She knew her sister well enough to recognize the nervousness hidden behind her composed smile. Olivia had never sought attention, and standing before the entire pack was the last place she ever wished to be. Ethan noticed her uncertainty and spoke softly enough that only she could hear. "You do not have to be afraid." Olivia looked toward him. "Everyone is watching." Ethan offered a reassuring smile. "Let them watch. They deserve to see someone whose kindness has remained hidden for far too long." Those quiet words settled gently inside her heart. For the first time that evening, Olivia no longer felt invisible. She stood beneath the silver light of the full moon surrounded by countless eyes. Yet the fear that had followed her throughout the ceremony slowly gave way to something she had almost forgotten how to feel. It was hope, quiet and fragile, growing stronger with every step she took beside the Alpha King as destiny prepared to reveal a truth that would change every life gathered in the courtyard. The quiet hope growing inside Olivia's heart remained fragile, as she stood beside Ethan beneath the ancient moon tree, surrounded by hundreds of curious faces. Every conversation had faded into complete silence. Even the musicians gently lowered their instruments, sensing that the evening had taken an unexpected turn. Soft moonlight spilled across the stone courtyard, while the glowing lanterns illuminated every expression, from confusion to anticipation. Elder Nathan respectfully looked toward the Alpha King. "Your Majesty," he asked with calm humility, "would you honor us with a few words?" Ethan slowly stepped forward without releasing Olivia's hand. His posture remained composed, neither dramatic nor intimidating, yet the quiet authority surrounding him naturally commanded every eye in the courtyard. He looked across the gathered pack before speaking in an even, steady voice. "Tonight I witnessed something far more valuable than status, reputation, or appearance." Curious whispers briefly moved through the crowd before disappearing once again. Ethan continued, "I watched someone help an elderly wolf without expecting gratitude. I watched the same person comfort a frightened child and reunite her with her family without asking for recognition. I watched someone quietly celebrate another person's happiness despite carrying disappointment inside her own heart." Olivia lowered her eyes, realizing every word described the moments she believed nobody had seen. Charlotte slowly looked toward her younger sister, surprise giving way to quiet admiration. Ryan stood perfectly still, replaying the evening inside his own mind. He remembered Olivia smiling sincerely when he had chosen Charlotte. He remembered her gentle congratulations before she quietly disappeared without demanding attention. Only now did he begin to understand the quiet dignity he had completely overlooked. Ethan turned toward Olivia with warmth in his silver eyes. True strength is revealed by kindness shown when no one is watching. The gentle breeze stirred the branches overhead as the ancient moonstone beside the ceremonial platform gradually began glowing brighter. Its silver light spread softly across the courtyard, reflecting over the polished stone beneath Olivia's feet. Several elders exchanged surprised glances. Elder Nathan slowly stepped closer to the sacred stone before looking back toward Ethan with growing understanding. Ethan lifted Olivia's hand, with quiet respect, never forcing the moment, allowing her every opportunity to step away if she wished. She remained beside him, her heartbeat quickening as she searched his calm expression. His voice softened, but every person gathered could still hear his words clearly. "Olivia Bennett, from the moment I saw your heart, something inside mine recognized a truth I could not ignore." The moonstone shimmered once again, brighter than before, bathing both of them in gentle silver light. Elder Nathan smiled quietly as ancient understanding settled across his face. Ethan looked directly into Olivia's eyes. "You are my true mate." Complete silence embraced the courtyard. No one moved. No one spoke. The only sound came from the soft breeze passing through the ancient branches above them. Olivia felt tears gathering in her eyes, not from sadness but from disbelief. She had expected nothing from this evening, accept the chance to quietly celebrate someone else's happiness. Instead, the most respected alpha in the kingdom had chosen to reveal his heart before the entire pack. Ryan slowly lowered his gaze, finally understanding that destiny had never been about choosing the brightest star in the crowd. It had quietly waited beside the woman whose kindness had illuminated every life around her. Charlotte smiled through grateful tears as she looked at her younger sister with pride instead of comparison. Around them, the members of Crimson Moon Pack remained speechless, witnessing the unforgettable moment when destiny gently lifted the one person almost everyone had failed to truly see. For several long seconds, the entire moon courtyard remained completely silent as the gentle silver light surrounding the ancient moonstone continued shining across the gathered pack. No one questioned what they had witnessed. The sacred stone had answered with unmistakable clarity, confirming the bond the Alpha King had declared before everyone. Olivia stood motionless beside Ethan, still struggling to believe the words she had just heard. Tears rested quietly in her eyes, but they were no longer the tears of someone who felt forgotten. They belonged to a woman who had finally been seen for who she truly was. Ethan never released her hand. Instead, he remained beside her with calm confidence, allowing the silence to settle naturally instead of forcing the moment with grand speeches. His steady presence gave Olivia the reassurance she needed more than any promise ever could. Elder Nathan stepped toward the glowing moonstone and smiled warmly. "The moon goddess has spoken," he said with quiet certainty. "A true mate bond cannot be created by expectation, popularity, or tradition. It is revealed by truth." His words gently echoed through the courtyard. One by one, the elders slowly lowered their heads in respectful acknowledgement. Their gesture was not merely for the Alpha King. It was for the young Omega whose quiet compassion had remained hidden in plain sight for far too long. Charlotte looked toward her younger sister with tears shining in her own eyes. She slowly walked across the courtyard until she stood directly in front of Olivia. For a brief moment, neither sister spoke. Then Charlotte wrapped her arms around Olivia in a gentle embrace. "I am so proud of you," she whispered. "I never realized how often everyone looked at me while forgetting to truly see you." Olivia returned the embrace with a grateful smile. "You never did anything wrong," she answered softly. "I have always wanted you to be happy." Charlotte gently laughed through her tears. "Now I know we both can be." A short distance away, Ryan quietly lowered his eyes. Regret settled gently across his expression, not because he had chosen Charlotte, but because he finally understood how easily he had overlooked someone extraordinary. He stepped forward respectfully and stopped several feet from Olivia and Ethan. "I owe you an apology," he said sincerely. "I judged what everyone else noticed instead of paying attention to what truly mattered." Olivia offered him the same gentle smile she had shown throughout the evening. "There is nothing to forgive," she replied. "We all see things differently until life teaches us to look more carefully." Ethan listened quietly, and his admiration for her deepened once again. Even now, with every reason to seek recognition, she chose grace instead. Around them, the members of Crimson Moon Pack gradually began smiling. The whispers that had once been filled with assumptions slowly transformed into quiet respect. Parents gently nodded to one another. Young wolves looked toward Olivia with admiration rather than pity. Families who had barely noticed her earlier now understood why destiny had chosen differently than human expectations. Beneath the full moon, the atmosphere changed completely. It was no longer simply a celebration of new pairs. It had become a reminder that the strongest hearts often beat quietly, waiting only for the right person to recognize their light, and everyone gathered there understood they had witnessed a moment that would become part of Crimson Moon Pack history for generations to come. The peaceful silence that settled across Crimson Moon Pack slowly gave way to warm smiles and quiet conversations as the celebration began once more beneath the brilliant full moon. The ancient moonstone continued shining with a gentle silver glow, reflecting across the polished stone courtyard like a blessing that would be remembered for generations. Olivia stood beside Ethan, still holding his hand with quiet gratitude. Everything around her looked the same as it had only a short time earlier, yet somehow the entire world felt different. She had not become someone new. She had simply been seen for who she had always been. Ethan looked across the gathered pack with calm confidence before turning his attention back to Olivia. You have spent your life giving kindness without expecting anything in return, he said softly. Tonight destiny finally returned that kindness to you. Olivia smiled through grateful tears. I never imagined this evening would end this way. Ethan answered with gentle warmth. Neither did I. But sometimes the greatest gifts arrive when we stop searching for them. Elder Nathan stepped forward once more beneath the ancient moon tree and raised his voice so every family could hear. Tonight will be remembered not because of titles or ceremonies, he said. It will be remembered because every one of us witnessed the moment when true character received the honor it had quietly earned all along. The gathered pack answered with heartfelt applause. It was no longer applause for tradition alone. It was applause for compassion, humility, and the quiet courage Olivia had carried even when no one seemed to notice. Charlotte gently took her sister's hands one last time and smiled with complete sincerity. You always believed happiness could be shared, she whispered. Now I understand what that truly means. Olivia embraced her warmly. We both found the path meant for us. Nearby, Ryan respectfully lowered his head toward Ethan and then toward Olivia. There were no excuses, only honest acceptance. Thank you for reminding me that the greatest qualities are often the easiest to overlook, he said. Olivia offered him the same peaceful smile she had given everyone throughout the evening. We all continue learning, she replied. That is how we become better. Ethan quietly admired her once again. Every response she gave reflected forgiveness instead of pride. Every word strengthened the certainty already living inside his heart. As musicians gently resumed their melody, Ethan offered Olivia his arm. Together they slowly walked through the center of the courtyard while families respectfully stepped aside, greeting them with genuine smiles instead of passing glances. Children waved happily, elders nodded with quiet approval, and neighbors who had barely noticed Olivia earlier now greeted her with sincere respect. Above them, the full moon illuminated the path leading beyond the ceremony toward the future waiting ahead. The cool night breeze carried the scent of pine and wildflowers as lanterns swayed gently beneath the ancient branches. Olivia looked toward Ethan with peaceful wonder. Do you think people can truly change? Ethan smiled before answering. I believe kind hearts give others the chance to change. Side by side they continued forward beneath the silver sky, leaving behind a celebration transformed by compassion rather than pride. Long after the music faded and the lanterns were extinguished, the people of Crimson Moon Pack would remember the quiet Omega who expected nothing, the Alpha King who recognized her true worth, and the unforgettable night that proved destiny never follows the loudest voice. It patiently finds the kindest heart, and when it finally does, everyone fortunate enough to witness that moment leaves forever changed.